All right, guys. Like I said on the show today is a UFC legend, man. I have Chris Lights Out Lytle on the show today. 31 and 18 career record, and he's fought everybody. You know what I mean? You're talking about your Nick Diaz, Matt Hughes, Josh Koscheck, Matt Serra, Matt Brown, Caro Parisian, Robbie Lawler, Dan Hardy, Thiago Alves. The list goes on and on and on. I mean, if they were a big name, Chris Lytle fought him. Chris, thank you so much for joining us, man.
What's happening, bud? And unfortunately, that record looks a little misleading. There was several of my fights. Somehow, I don't know how it worked. They were all wins that aren't on the record because back when I started fighting in the late 90s, early 2000s, they didn't – if the state was unsanctioned, they kind of came through and took all those off. So I probably had about probably another 18 wins that are on there. But none of them lost. Isn't that weird? All my losses were in big organizations. But, not like local – if you look at my record, I think I'm like they thought I did a show the other day and they were like, oh, you were 1-0 and they sent you over to Japan. I mean, that must have been a lot of pressure. I was like, no, I was like 11-0, and I went to Japan. I came back here and still fought, in the Midwest circuits, but yeah, they don't record those fights. So a lot of those on your fights on your record don't count apparently. So.
Sure. That's always how it works, right? In the most negative sense.
Yeah.
One of the coolest things is every time, because when you were big, that's when I was kind of getting to the MMA scene. Josh Koscheck's actually somebody who's went to the same high school as me.
Wow.
He's older than me, but so he's a hometown kid. So when that first season, The Ultimate Fighter came out, I've been a diehard fan since. So that's when you were at the peak of your powers. And I knew if I saw Chris Lytle's name on a card, I knew it was going to be an absolute banger.
That goal, I wanted everybody to think no matter what, if they saw my name on the card, they want to get the pay-per-view because at least you're going to get one good fight. You never know when you get a card. Sometimes some of the fights are lackluster and you're like, but I just wanted to make sure people are like, okay, this will be a good pay-per-view. Obviously the main event's a big draw, but I just wanted people to know, well, we're going to get a good fight if he's on there. That was kind of always the goal.
Oh, and I think you definitely achieved that goal, which kind of brings me to my first question is, every time I think of Chris Lytle's name I've heard rumors that you would kind of tell your opponent, you're like, hey, listen, we're not making great money here. Let's go out. Let's bang. Let's try to win fight of the night, knockout of the night, try to get that bonus money. Is that true?
I mean, not really. I wouldn't phrase it like that. I wouldn't say, hey, let's just try to get, but I would say something like we talk. I'd be like, hey man, I'm gonna come out here and try to take your head off. You take mine off. Let's go for it. Let's get that bonus, baby. We'd say stuff like that. But I would. So I guess in a certain way it was true. But I'd be like, let's just come out there and try to kill each other, stuff like that. Like the way I looked at it, either A, I'm gonna knock him out, or I didn't feel like I was ever gonna get knocked out. So I'm gonna either knock him out, submit him, or we're gonna have. If we go the distance, it's gonna be a great fight. So one of those, either I'm gonna win the sub of the night, knock out the night, or we're gonna win the fight of the night. And most of the time that's usually what happens. So I was just, I guess I would kind of say, hey man, let's just go out here. But I wouldn't be like try and work it like we're just gonna not try and. People always act like I had this deal like let's not take each other down. Oh no, I never talk to people like that. It was just like, hey, go out there and let's. I'm gonna bring it. You bring it. Let's put on a great fight. Let's get this money, baby. But yeah. So I guess it was kind of worked out like that.
Because when you think about it, fighters around that time were making, 10 and 10, 15 and 15. And when you're talking about fight of the night, you're talking about $60K. So,
I got a couple 70,000 bonuses. I was like, yeah, it was a no-brainer, and I'm not going to lie. There were certain times I remember I was in the back and I was with my coaches and somebody had like a spectacular knockout. And I looked at them, I said, looks like we're going for the sub of the night tonight, fellas. And they kind of laughed. Like, yeah, I don't want to get a knockout now. I want to get a submission because that guy's getting that $60,000. I'm not getting it. So, I got to hit him with a one hitter quitter, just a spectacular knockout, or probably easier just to get a sub. So I was like, well, or five tonight or something. So I was like, I actually thought about that back there. I was like, man, you only don't have to win. You have to win the way you want to win so you can win more money. You know what I mean? Because, yeah, like you said, even, my checks were a little bit bigger than that. But, yeah, you might be making 20 and 20 or something. And all of a sudden this fight pays 60 to get the bonus. Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and it's sad. That's the reality, man, because you're going out there like literally risking your body. And I mean that in the most literal sense, and you're like, oh, wow, maybe I should try to switch up what I've been working on to try to go for a submission. And you've always been well balanced on the feet and on the ground. So it's not like you're a novice on the ground by any means. I mean, you have a ton of submission victories, but it's that kind of idea where it's like, man, you should be going out there and focusing on, advancing your career instead of going like, man, I got to fight tooth and nail to get that bonus money.
But you know what? I looked at it a lot like that as well, especially early on. And I I remember looking back when I was, I deserve more than this and I deserve more than that. And I watched a thing not too terribly long ago, and it was showing, after Dana White and Zuffa and them, they bought the UFC for $2 million. Everybody knows the $2 million, $2 million, and then they invested like another $9 million in it. But then they were still hemorrhaging money for a long time. They got down to where they were negative $44 million. And like the Fertittas looked at Dana and go, hey, we can't keep doing this. And they said, how much can you get for this organization? They looked around like maybe 8 or 9 million. So there was a time when they were looking to sell because they were hemorrhaging money. So I look back and I'm like, people like myself were, say, hey, I deserve more. And we did, sure. But there was no money then, you know what I mean? So it's like, you can't go 100 billion, million in debt. There's limits to what you can do. And if you're not bringing in that kind of money, there's nothing you can do. So luckily, the Ultimate Fighter kind of turned it around. And that's really when the money started coming. I think looking back, I'm sure I retired. I left definitely a lot of money on the table, but at that time, there was just other stuff more important in my life. And, I'd fought long enough. I'd fought for 13 years, and I felt like it was time to move on. But it would have been nice if that money would have been there a little bit before that.
Sure. And, still to this day, the fighters are being underpaid. It's the whole idea of like, I think the outsider looks at, MMA and they're like, oh, it's a brutal sport. And it is a brutal sport. Don't get me wrong, but like, it's also a beautiful sport. If anybody's ever, done jiu-jitsu, it really is like playing human chess. Cause it's so high level and you're, making somebody think you're going one way so you can go another. And it's this like beautiful kind of, like I said, human chess. So, that's what I love about MMA, and I just wish that some of the old school boxing guys and some of just the older crowd would realize of how beautiful MMA is.
Well, and it was cool. I've been training some newer guys. Got a couple good athletes coming in, some football players, and just going over a lot of new stuff with them. And then they're getting step one. They're learning how to put on a triangle or block an arm bar or whatever. And I said, well, you got to understand, you're trying to get that arm bar. But this guy's holding your knee and he's doing that. And once you try and throw that over, he's going to block your wrist. You've got 4 different steps you have to do to make this. And he knows all those in advance. He's going to block them all. You know what I mean? So it's like you're talking about this game of chess going on there. And you have to try and set him up to make you think you're going to do this so you can get that triangle on. Because if you just try and put a triangle on, it's never going to work right now. You have to hit it in position, or when you set up 3 other moves, that's the 4th one. So it's exactly what you're talking about. It's just, it's a lot more skill involved than people think. They see all of a sudden somebody gets a guillotine choke, and it's like, yeah, that was, there was a lot of steps that went into making that happen. It wasn't you just do it on this in UFC 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. There's been so many times where I've been in the, 4th row, 3rd row, and listen to people behind me talk, and they've been like, punch him in the face. And I'm like, bro, what the hell do you think he's trying to do?
Well, my favorite's like, get up. I'm like, oh, what? I didn't think of that. I'm laying here with this guy punched me. I could have just stood up. Why didn't I think of that? You know what I mean? It's kind of, oh, get up. That's one thing when you go to Japan and fight. Like, I used to fight over there a lot in Pancrase, and the fans were very educated. Like, they were very quiet, and they would just sit there until a near submission. Then they'd start getting real excited. People start cheering and clapping. Then you'd get out of it, and then we'd go back to quiet. And people, like, they were very educated. It was nice. You didn't get any of these kick his ass stuff like that.
So the first thing I kind of want to get into is how hard was it for you to be a fighter, and a really good one at that, but you're also a firefighter? How hard was it to juggle 2 careers?
It was real difficult, and I'll tell you, the reason I think I was a firefighter to begin with was I was trying to fight, but at the same time, I had kids. I had 4 kids, and fighting didn't pay the bills back then, not at all. So you had to have another job. Either people didn't have jobs, they didn't have families, you know what I mean? Or, they could get by just working at a gym and teaching jiu-jitsu or teaching kickboxing or whatever. That wasn't my life. I had kids. So this was just something I absolutely loved to do. That's why I did it for a long time, even when it didn't pay that much. So you can definitely tell a difference. And all the old school guys love the sport. They weren't doing it for paychecks and money, because if they weren't smart. There wasn't that much money in it. So they were either very bad at math. Like, I got $200. That's not paying anything, buddy. You know what I mean? So now it was very difficult, because I was working, 48 to 56 hours a week, and then had the kids, and then, try to train. So people always ask me, how I was able to do it. I was like, that was my life. That was it. Those were the three things I did. I spent time with my family. I worked at the firehouse, and I trained at the gym. There was no other stuff. People were like, oh, do you like to play golf? I don't play golf. Do you go hunting? I've never been hunting in my life. It's like there was no other pastimes, because I knew there was only so many hours of the day, and you're going to find time to do the things you really want to do. Like I always tell people, like if you got tickets to like the Super Bowl, you'd find a way to get there. People are people are like, oh, I don't have time to do this, I don't have time to do that. Well, you take off whatever you had to do if you need to get there. But I mean, you don't have extra time. Well, who does have extra time? I mean, but you find the time to do the things that you really want to do. So everything else is just an excuse. So I wanted to train, I wanted to fight, I wanted to work, I wanted to spend time with the family. That was kind of all the time I had. But it's I've realized I have a lot of deficiencies in other areas. You know what I mean? Like I'm not good at certain things. I'm like, well, it's because I didn't do it for 20 years. You know what I mean? So now I'm just like, man, I wish I did a couple of things better. But that this is a path I've chosen, and I've been fortunate. I loved everything I've done. I've been pretty fortunate to be able to do what I want. And
absolutely. No, and I definitely know what you mean as far as that goes. It is always funny that people are like, oh, I don't have time to do that. And like exactly what you said, like, I mean, if it's really important to you, you find time, you make time.
Yep.
You could easily say that I don't have time to spend with my family, but like, if you love your family, you're going to find time to spend with your family. So no, I completely agree with you. And to get into, one of your early UFC fights is one of my favorite fighters, probably my favorite fighter ever, is Nick Diaz. And you fought Nick Diaz in his second fight. So what was that like? And Diaz is known as this huge trash talker, but it was such he looks like a little kid, you know what I mean, when he was fighting you.
He's like 20 years old or something.
Yeah, I want to say he's like in his late teens, early 20s.
Okay.
What was that like?
Well, okay, so I'm fighting in WEC, and I was supposed to fight Jake Shields, and they told me, like the week before that Jake had staph infection. He was probably going to pull out. So I was like, all right. So then all of a sudden my mindset changed. So they're like, come on out. We don't know what's going to happen. Well, either he'll do it or we'll get somebody else. I'm like, all right. And I watched some of Jake's stuff. I knew he was a good grappler. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to try to keep this on my feet, whatever. So next thing I know, about, 2 days before, they go, hey, we got this other guy. He's won grappler quest. He's won all these jiu-jitsu tournaments. He's a real good jiu-jitsu guy. And I was like, all right, cool. This young kid, I kill him, whatever. I'd already fought in UFC at this point. So I was just like, I didn't know who this guy was. And I just knew he was a tough grappler, and so it really sucked because it was in, like, I can't remember where. It's in the desert. It was like 100 degrees out. Luckily we could fight at night, but it was so hot out there. And the fight's actually going not bad. I think I think I lost a split decision. So one of the judges said I won, and I remember in the second round I busted his head open and it cut him open and he's bleeding. Remember, I'm dead at the third round. I'm so tired and so hot. So I took him down, and this dude's giving me all I can handle. I'm like, who is this young guy? What's going on? He had some good arm bar attempts, and he's throwing punches with me, and I take him down third round. I'm just trying to stall it out, and my own corner's yelling, "Stand it up, ref!" I'm like, "What are you doing?" So they stand it up. He clocks me, hits me, and cuts my eye open, and I just pull guard. He ends the fight, throwing a punch at me. So I lost a split decision. I remember after that fight, I was with my buddy, my cornerman. I was just like, man, I was so depressed. I was like, dude, I got beat by some kid who doesn't, what is going on? I was like, man, I was about to quit the sport because, like, if you're getting beat by guys who have no business even fight, well, then, a year later, he's in the UFC killing people. So I felt a lot better about that. I didn't know at the time, though. I was like, man, I just got beat by some young kid. What the hell's going on here, man? I fought in Japan a bunch. I fought in the UFC. I'm the veteran here, and I just didn't. I don't know if I overlooked him, but I mean, if you watch the fight, it was a very good fight.
Oh, it was.
I thought it was a great fight, and like I said, I could tell at the end there, he had more gas than I did. And, he hit me once and cut me open, and I pulled guard. And he's, one last 2 minutes of that round, that was enough. So it was a good fight. But I tried to look at things anymore too much in like wins and loss, especially split decision. I think I've lost 5 of them now. So if I go out there and fight, I'm not too worried about 3 other individuals who probably never fought really say. So if one other person said I won one of those fights. So it is what it was. It was a fun fight though. We both cut each other open. We both, I think we had a good time and helped get him up and build his name up. So I was glad for him.
Yeah, I mean, he became such a cult legend. And like you talk about how your record doesn't necessarily paint the picture of your career. And I completely agree with that. And Nick Diaz is another one. And so is his little brother, Nate, where I think Nate's career record's like 18-12. And, that's not the record that like you would think he would have. So records are one thing, but if you're a fight fan, what's up.
And it depends on like if you're a true fighter. Like true fighters, like especially old school guys, they fought anyone, anytime, anywhere with any kind of rules. So I mean, it's a little different. There wasn't a lot of like picking and choosing. This is good for my career. There wasn't all that stuff. People didn't do that back then, So you just fought, and it wouldn't be odd if you showed up to a place and you fought somebody 30 pounds heavier than you because that's what they had there, So it was just a different era and different mindset. So
I mean, look at BJ Penn. BJ Penn is the guy who has fought at featherweight and also fought at 205.
Yeah.
So my next question is, was there ever a particular fight that you were somewhat like nervous about?
I mean, to be honest with you, you're kind of, especially the more you're in the UFC, you're kind of nervous about all of them. And it's not necessarily even, you're not nervous that you're going to get hurt. You're not nervous that you're going to lose. You're just nervous that you're going to go out there and you have, you have a whole team of people behind you at this point, and you have, your family and your friends and everybody watching. You're just nervous you're not going to go out there and perform well. I know a lot of people were counting on me to do well, teammates, training partners, coaches, family, and just to go out there and not perform is about as bad of a feeling as it gets. So you just want to go out there and do well. You don't want everybody to be like, man, why are you at the gym every day? And why are you spending time away from your family if you're going to go out there and do that? So it was more just of not wanting to let people down. There was a lot of pressure just to, I win, lose, or draw. If you go out there and you fight well, people are, okay. But I mean, if you go out there and I never really wanted to be on somebody's highlight reel, getting knocked out. Luckily, that never happened. You get knocked out. But I mean, that's always embarrassing. You go out there and 8 seconds into the fight, you get TKO'd or something. It's like, man, all that work and everybody invested all that time, energy, effort into you going out there. I mean, because you're an extension of everybody at the gym at that point.
Sure.
The whole gym's fight, not just you. So there is that aspect to it. But so, I mean, I'd say most of the fights down the street, and no matter what, even if they throw somebody, a newcomer in at the end, like, oh, you're supposed to kill those guys. Well, that was more pressure because you can't lose this newcomer just like I did to Nick, you know what I mean? So, or no matter what, this seems like there's a lot of pressure.
And that's, you're absolutely right about, the younger fighter. There's even more pressure because this person's unknown. If you lose to him, they're like, oh, Chris Lytle's washed up. He's a bum. And it's like, dude, you have no clue.
Like, it's a no-win situation no matter what.
So is there a fight that's your favorite of your career that, like, if somebody was going, hey man, I want to watch a Chris Lytle fight, is there one that you would recommend?
Any of those I got like 6 fight of the night, so all those were pretty good that I would recommend. But I think this one wasn't even a fight of the night because it was before they had that honor. I really liked the first time when back in UFC in a long time when I fought Robbie Lawler, and the reason was, nobody really was giving me any kind of a chance in that fight. Everybody had kinged Robbie the King, and he's this and that, and I was like, all right, cool, whatever. This guy, he's a young guy too, and I know he can hit hard, but they think he's going to go in and knock me out right away. That ain't going to happen, So I just really liked that fight because in that fight, I feel like was one where we just kind of lost ourselves, didn't worry about the crowd or the TV or the judges. We just worried about going out there and fighting. My job was like, I'm going to hit you harder than you're going to hit me. He said the same thing pretty much. And we had a good fight. And then afterwards, I just really it changed the way, the fighting world viewed me. They're like, oh my God, this guy's legitimate and he's here to stay, So that really helped make my career what it became was, I set the tone with that fight. So I really liked that one. And, besides that, I'd say my Dan Hardy fight as well, because that was one where I'd already said, hey, I'm done. This is my last fight. And, I'm going out on my terms. I'm not going to – people were saying I need to try and take this guy down because he's really good on his feet. And I'm like, well, what am I? chopped liver. What am I terrible? I'm not trying to take anybody down. Nobody can knock me out of my feet. So I'm gonna try and take it to him. And then he was able to shoot it on me. I was able to get a submission win. So it was just a good fight all around. I felt like he hit me a couple times really good, and I was able to, stay up and get a win at the end. So that was a fun one.
Yeah, the Robbie Lawler one's like a classic. Do you still watch fights? Like, do you still watch UFC? Do you have any favorite fighters that you enjoy to watch?
What's sad for me right now is like a lot of the guys, like in the next portion, after like when I retired, these people are just starting to retire now. Like the Matt Browns and the Cowboy Cerrone, those guys. I like the guys who go after. I like the guys who might not even have the best record, but the guys you want to fight. The guys like myself, I think. Guys who, no matter what, you want to see them fight because they're going to put on a good fight. And those are the people I like. And it's sad for me because they're kind of retiring right now too. So it's like, oh no, I need to find some new people to really look after. That's why I do like Gaethje, but I don't think he'll fight too long, really, because he's already said he wouldn't. And the way he fights is so entertaining, but it's brutal. So I definitely like the way he's fighting. He'll go in and just I'm gonna need a punch to kick you in the leg. I'm gonna take your legs out, and I'm just gonna take you apart systematically. And he's a lot of fun to watch.
I completely agree with you. Can you kind of tell me, and this is one I've always kind of wondered about, what was the Ultimate Fighter House like? Because you were in the season where they brought all the vets in. I'm just kind of curious what that experience is like.
Well, to be honest with you, I think my take is going to be a lot different than maybe everybody else on this show, because that was the only time in my career I ever got to train like a true fighter, I think, where that was all I did was dedicate my life to fighting. I didn't have to watch my kids. I have to go to the firehouse. All I did was train twice a day, 7 days a week, ate the proper food, and I had great workout partners. My team was phenomenal. We had good coaches, Randy Couture and George St. Pierre. So it was really the only time I ever got to train like a true pro. So I loved every second. I know some of the people there are like, man, I don't have my cell phone or no TV. I remember like me and Matt said, like, dude, who cares when like you get to, it's awesome. You know what I mean? So I know we really had a good time, but like I said, that was the only time I could ever think of. I didn't get to go away to, any camps ever. I didn't really get to, just dedicate my whole time, energy, and effort to that. So that was it for me. And I felt like I got a lot better when I was there. It was a lot of fun.
And that's actually a really interesting little story there that I wouldn't have thought of, but that is really cool. So if people aren't aware that, you retired from the UFC, but 8 years later, you come back and you start fighting in bare knuckle fighting. What made you return?
What's funny is, I left MMA on my terms when I wanted to, and I still had a lot of fights left. Man, I won like 5 out of my last 6 fights. I was doing well. I just, my family I realized I wasn't being around enough, and I was my kids were getting older, and I was like, man, you're gone all the time. I felt like it was the right thing to do.
Sure.
But I wasn't shot like most fighters quit when they get knocked out 4 times in a row. That wasn't me. And I was a professional boxer, and when I signed my, one of my UFC contracts, I couldn't box anymore. So I always felt like, man, I didn't get to finish boxing. I kind of want to do more boxing. And I see, this is the funny part, I see on Facebook one day, it's like Joe Riggs, bare knuckle boxing. I'm buddies with Joe. So I was like, God dang it, Joe, what's wrong with you? What are you doing bare knuckle boxing for? What is wrong with you? So I like hit play and I watch, and about halfway through the fight, I remember I go, okay, I kind of want to get a hold of these guys and see if they'll let me fight. So it's just like, as a guy who's been fighting so long, I did boxing, I did MMA. I fought, what they called NHB was the old bar. You could headbutt, you could do everything back in the day. So fighting back in there, I felt like I'm not a complete combative athlete if I don't at least try to do this bare knuckle fight once. So I got a hold of people in England, and they were like, yeah, we'd love to have you. So I went out to England and did one. And then they legalized it here in the States, and I did a couple here with this organization and the BKFC, and then I had wrist surgery, and it's never, like, I'm 45, I'll be 46 here in a month, so I was like, man, probably time just to go into the commentary portion of it. So I'm doing commentary for those guys now, and I'm loving that. So matter of fact, we have one coming up this Friday night, so they're changing gear, though. It's going to be on an app on your phone. It's called BKTV, and it's only like $3.95 a month or something ridiculous.
Oh, wow.
You get the whole every fight for $50 for the year, less than $50. I'm like, that's a no-brainer. So
Sure, absolutely. No, you're completely right.
Yep.
I'm gonna get you out on just a few more quick questions. Is
Okay.
Dana White is somebody who is either loved or hated, and there's not much of a middle ground. What
Sure.
was your experiences like with Dana White?
I mean, here's the thing. Like, to me, I thought Dana White would tell you what he expected, and if you did it, he's gonna like you. And people don't realize is, in a way, he's your boss. And you can't just do whatever you want in any other job. You can't. If you work on the fire department, let's say, and my lieutenant tells me to do something, I'm like, I'm gonna do this. You're gonna get in trouble. So when Dana tells people this is what I expect for you to be a UFC fighter, and you go and you make it about you, and you don't show up for meetings on time, and you say this in the media, the difference is he's gonna talk bad about you in public and make you look bad. That's the only difference is he doesn't care. He'll make you look bad on camera. A lot of people try and handle that in house or a different way, but no, he's gonna call you out. I got no problem with that. If you kind of do, what is expected of you, he's going to treat you very well, and he's going to be, honest with you and tell you what's up. And then if you don't do it, there's consequences. So I always had no problems dealing with it. But, I know he really liked the way I fought. I came out there and I put it on the line. And if you do that, oh man, he's going to love you and he's going to try and take care of you. And if not, he's probably going to talk bad about you. So, it is what it is. I had no problems dealing with him. I thought he's been a big part of why the sport has grown to where it is. And if people don't like that, that's fine. There's always Bellator or somewhere else. You can go somewhere else. Don't fight for him.
You're 100% right. He really is an instrumental part in growing the UFC to what it is today. Two more questions is one, when you were training, you hear stories about there's killer fighters in the gym, but they never perform under the brightest lights. Was there any fighter in particular that you were like, they might have had a good or mediocre career, but you're like, man, this dude is a superstar in the gym?
Yeah, there was a couple guys I could think of like that. And, you would even say they had like a stellar career. There's a guy who I trained with, a guy named Nick. He was just a phenomenal stand-up guy. He was my number one, training partner. Real good on his feet, great kicks, great punches. Good on the ground too. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu now. Phenomenal, but like he would even admit, just like mentally when a fight would come up, he just feel too much pressure, and he'd be like, "Man, Chris, I can't really do it like that, man." So, but he was just the definition of what you're talking about. Just a phenomenal guy, human being, and he was a great guy to work out with. And he had a couple of fights where he did very well, but there's a couple like he just like mentally wasn't there, and that's a huge part of it, man. There's so many people who just for whatever reason can't get over that hump, and it's tough. Sometimes people might be just even too smart for their own good. The more you think about this, your head can get in the way sometimes. So, you have to be almost unrealistic and delusional to be a good fighter, in my opinion. You have to be able to like go out, fight, and get cut up and lose a fight and think the next fight I can't be beat. Nobody can beat me. And that's hard to do. Because a smart person would see the reality of it, but I think even a smarter person can look past that and say, "Hey, man, you have to have this mindset. Nobody can beat me," even if it's not true. But you have to have that going in, I think, in order to be a great fighter.
And that's, I think you're 100% right. And I'm going to get you out on this one is with the fight game being so crazy, the money's never great, whether it was when you were fighting or today, with what we know about CTE and everything. If I dropped, 20-year-old Chris Lytle today, would you go do the same stuff you did, when you were 20?
It's funny. And I've had people my whole career ask me like, well, Chris, why did you choose to be a fighter? Why did you choose to do this? And I always tell them the same thing. I didn't choose it. It chose me. You know what I mean? So it's not even, I don't even know what else. This is just kind of who I am. You know what I mean? So I don't really know what else you would do. Am I going to be happy playing basketball or golf? Absolutely not. It's just not something I'd like to do. That's not going to give me. The one thing I love about this sport is, it's me. It's one of the person one-on-one. It's as much as I want to work. That's how much success I'm going to have. And I'm goal oriented. So, If I decide, in 8 weeks I have a fight and I do everything for that 8 weeks to that one night and I get to know yes or no whether I accomplished my goal, it's very addictive. Win or, if you win, it's the best feeling in the world. If you lose, I got to get rid of this feeling. I got to fight again so I can get rid of this. I have to succeed in I don't know anything else like that. So I think I would not be very happy if I did anything else. And like I said, I didn't pick it. It's just, I think who I am of who I developed into before I even started fighting. So, luckily for myself, I don't speak funny. I don't have headaches. I don't have vision loss or any problems. So, I was sneakily pretty good about rolling with the punchers and not taking too many clean shots. And, I don't think I have, maybe I got like that Homer Simpson syndrome where I got like a big thick skull or something. Don't get knocked out. I don't know, but something has made it to where I'm still fine. If I had a lot of problems and, then I might rethink things, but I mean, I like the way I did it. I like the way I try to teach people to not take a lot of shots. Don't prove how tough you are, especially in the gym.
Sure.
But just be smart about it. You got to be smart and try and learn all the little techniques and how to get away with things and how to not take clean shots. And when you do that, I think you're going to be right. As long as you're smart, man. I still have people I'll go in there and be doing stuff. And my coach like, Chris, no more. You're not allowed to spar. I'm like, I know. So it's like, take care of me. They don't want me to get messed up, and I don't want to get messed up either. So.
No, that's awesome. And Chris, I appreciate you taking the time, man. It was great to talk to you. And like I said, you're a legend. Anybody who grew up really with the UFC as it blossomed knows Chris Lytle, and you can't help but be a fan of Chris Lytle. So thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, you're the man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Guys, thanks for tuning in. If you like the episode, click like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.